Well, good to be with you again. I've got something special today. The summer is over. I talked about this earlier this week. School is back in session. The last of the primaries are wrapped up. We're headed towards the general election season, but it's also football season again. And I wanted to have a real fun discussion with a friend of mine, Matt Light. He is a New England Patriots Hall of Famer. The thing that's so fascinating about Matt, like so many of the people that have come on the podcast before, is the trajectory of their life. Matt played football because he kind of had to. It was like, get out of the house, go do something. And he kind of gets discovered in high school and goes on to play college. And it was a way to help pay for college. But he went to college to be an engineer, to follow in his father's footsteps. He never thought that he was going to be very good at it. And like that, he goes from college, from Purdue, and gets discovered and then suddenly gets drafted. But here's the thing, and you've got to hear the story. He never actually had seen a pro football game. Never saw. This was not a kid who grew up in Friday Night Lights and saying, I want to be a football player, I want to make it to the big leagues or whatever. He literally is like thinking, I'm going to be an engineer and I like playing this game, and then I get drafted into college and hey, this is a way to pay for college. And the next thing you know, he's getting a call to go to the New England Patriots. And it's just an unbelievable story. You've got to listen to the whole thing, because you talk about somebody who never thought they'd be where they are today. Matt Light exemplifies that. He gets to the Patriots and he thinks, okay, maybe I last a year. He wins a Super Bowl with them right off the bat, has an amazing year, goes on to 11 years, Pro Bowls, multiple Super Bowls, captain of the team, ends up in the Hall of Fame, the Patriots. But he also then translates that right off the bat to this amazing foundation. We talk about that and then a business career after that. But the thing is so interesting is that, like so many people that we've had in the podcast, like you would have never seen this trajectory in their life in some respects. And Matt exemplifies it, but in sports. And I'm excited for you to get to listen to this because he's such a great human being, a great athlete, but a good person. And it's been an honor for me to get to know him and his family over the past several years, and the work that he's doing with the Light Foundation, helping these kids find a better path for the future, is just so amazing, especially in the world that we live in today. And so I hope you enjoy this. Without further ado, Matt Light. All right, I want to welcome into the program three-time Super Bowl champ, three-time Pro Bowler, New England Patriots Hall of Famer, number 72, Matt Light. Matt, thanks for joining us. Good to be with you.
Sean, thanks for having me. Yeah, we survived another summer here, and I'm back in New England, living the New England lifestyle, which I know you're very familiar with.
Yeah, it sounds like a Barry Manilow song. I want to get back to your roots if you can, though. Those are the highlights, but let's go back a little. You were born in Greenville, Ohio. You grew up playing high school football. Was this something that, like, I know a lot of folks grow up and like playing football is like the be all and end all. Was playing football part of like something that your family was all into? Was this something that you really were into, or was it something that you just sort of fell into and enjoyed?
I think the falling part is closer to how I got into the game of football and sports in general, because, unlike a lot of the guys that I played football with throughout my career, there were no influences in my life as it related to football or any sport, because my father grew up with severe polio, right? And he was right there at the cutoff. The vaccine came out shortly after he was born, but he suffered greatly with polio. And, that really shaped his early development and his childhood. And so sports weren't a part of his life. And therefore, it really wasn't a part of my life, other than the fact that I think my mom was like, I can't have this young man in my house all day, every day, because he's eating everything and he's breaking stuff. So my mom was really the one that was like, okay, hey, look, if you want to play a sport, here's some options. And I keyed in on football. I had some friends of mine that were playing, and it started at an early age because, again, my mom, I think, just wanted me out of the house and wanted some freedom. And from there, it just took off. But to answer your question, no, like no one in my family watched the game of football or were into sports at all. We were into the outdoors and camping and hunting and fishing. That's what everyone in my family did. Aunts, uncles, friends, relatives, that lifestyle was every vacation. It was everything that we looked forward to on the calendar, and sports was a distant second.
So it's interesting. I didn't grow up playing football. I've come to enjoy the game professionally. Obviously, a big New England Patriots fan. When you were younger, I know you played both offense and defense in a variety of positions. Is that normal? Do people sort of? I mean, I always thought that everyone wanted to be quarterback. You played the line a lot. Was that something that you got pushed to, or meaning that they looked at your size and your strength and said, "Hey, you're going to be on the line"? Or was it you wanted to do that?
Yeah, when I was young, the option was, okay, step on the scale. Okay, you are really large, so you're a lineman, right? And that's, I think, a safety aspect too. When we called it Pee Wee football in Ohio at the time. When I grew up, and you're thinking like in the mid '80s, right? I started playing the game. Pee Wee football was a big deal. Ohio and football in general, with the Hall of Fame in Canton and all that good stuff, is a big deal. And I think it was weight from a safety issue. We don't want that guy running down the field trying to catch a ball and hurting people with his momentum. But I was just always in that category of a lineman. And for me in particular, the focus was offensive and defensive line. And I think really most of my, if you want to call it accolades, or the things that I got recognized for all the way up through high school, was, interestingly enough, on the defensive side, which I didn't end up pursuing post high school.
And why was that? Did you like the offense more?
Well, I loved the aggressive nature of playing on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball, at that age, right, all the way up through high school, it's very it's very repetitive, right? It's kind of, you feel like it's dummied down. You feel like you're not really doing football stuff when you're blocking. And so, like, most defensive linemen play both ways. They also play on the offensive line at that age, and you're kind of just surviving the offensive series to get to the defensive side, where you can go hit people and make a tackle, or get a sack if you're lucky, or an interception. So again, I tolerated the offensive side, but then I go to Purdue, and they wanted me to focus in on offensive line, and I actually ended up playing tight end my rookie year, which I was horrible. And then from there, the career kind of took off in the direction.
So let's kind of pick up on that. So in '96, you go to Purdue. Were you recruited, or did you want to go to Purdue, or how did that happen?
Again, being naive to the whole process, and I'd never seen a college football game in my life. I'd never seen a professional game. I'd never traveled to a stadium to watch anything other than the games I played in high school, right? I was oblivious and had no idea that they would pay for your college if you committed to one of these schools. And it sounds crazy in today's day and age, where everything's shareable, right? And everybody knows everything. But for a kid growing up in, West Central Ohio, middle of nowhere, largest agricultural producer in the state, it was a different lifestyle, a different time. And so I started getting letters from all these schools going into my senior year. And it worked out great, because my dad had just told me, hey, look, nobody paid for my school. So if you want to go to college, you better start thinking about it. You better find a good avenue and a way to pay for it. And then lo and behold, I got all these letters, and I'm thinking, hey, wow, this is great. So I took visits to a number of schools, and Purdue, to be honest with you, like most kids, I wanted to do what my dad did. My father is a phenomenal, just, really world-class engineer, and he's a brilliant man. We butted heads like crazy, but looking back on it, my goodness, the things that he taught me. But I wanted to be my dad. I wanted to go into engineering, and here I have an opportunity to go to Purdue, and it's this prestigious engineering program, and it just made sense, right? And I had a great feel for the coaches. I really enjoyed Randy Finkner, who came into my home and recruited me, and I liked our head coach at the time. So I made a decision to go there, pretty quick.
So, what's interesting is in this, your second year in 97, you redshirt because of your left shoulder. Ironically, that may be one of the only physical attributes that we share together. I had my left shoulder reconstructed, and I think I'm 5'6". I think you're 6'4". I think that's like the only thing that we share. But I know what that has done to me physically, in terms of restrict my mobility and my movement. How did that concern you in terms of your thought about, okay, how is this going to affect my future ability to play the game?
That's a great question. And I gotta say that right off the bat, it's interesting. I've had 15 major surgeries, right? Where they put you to sleep and then, you hope you wake up, right? Um, and that sounds like a lot, but I'll tell you, in sports in general, it's amazing how many procedures, athletes have to go through in the course of their careers, and those are 15 majors. There's a million other procedures that were not comfortable or fun to go through, but those were the big ones. And at that point in time at Purdue, to your point, I show up there and they think for some reason I'm athletic, and so they're like, hey, we need you to play tight end. They recruited me as a tight end because they watched one film of me in high school where I talked my high school quarterback, who was one of my best friends and still is today, into throwing me the ball. I made our tight end go play tackle while I went and caught a pass, and I just happened to catch it and run for a touchdown, right? So it was literally, it had to be the only film they watched on me. So they thought I could play tight end, and I go there and I start as a true freshman at tight end, and I caught one pass because I'm not athletic and I'm not very good at that. And then Joe Tiller comes in and he's like, look, you're never going to be a tight end, kid. So start playing, tackle for us. And it was in that transition year going into my sophomore year that in camp, I blew my shoulder out. That was the first major injury that I ever sustained, as a person or as an athlete. Right. So it was very, very difficult. I remember that time was a dark time. Shoulder surgeries are horrible for those of you.
Yeah.
You've been down that rehab.
Yeah, I mean, 25 years later, I that's why I'm saying I know what that's like, and I don't play pro football.
Well, listen, I'll tell you, Sean, it's crazy because there's certain weaknesses in every human, right? And not every athlete gets those exposed. But for me, my weakness has always been my shoulders. So I blew out my right shoulder in 96. 97, I guess, and did the rehab on that and made it back. And I never really questioned if I'd make it back. I guess I'm lucky in that sense. I always, look, I think my faith and the way I was raised, you do what you do, you work hard, you trust that, you're going to do everything in your power to do it the right way. And if you do that, you'll be in a position to succeed somehow, some way. So I never really questioned that aspect of it. I just did what the trainer said. I'm also highly coachable. It's like my only attribute. I laugh about this, but it's 100% true. If you look at how they judge offensive linemen coming out for the draft, they say things like he's got great short space quickness, he's really explosive, he's got a great punch, he comes off the ball, all these little things, right, to talk about offensive linemen and how you can rate them. You know what they said about me, Sean? Highly coachable. That's it. Not that he's fast. I mean, I had no redeeming quality other than if you tell him what to do, he'll do it. So
that's not a bad thing.
No. I mean, it's almost like, in the military, right? That's how they train you, be coachable. And so, coming back from that though, to go back to the shoulder thing, the rehab was grueling. It's uncomfortable. You can't get comfortable while you're going through that. You're sitting up in bed, trying to sleep in a recliner or whatever, but it taught me so much about myself. And in a way, I'm glad that happened early. Unfortunately, it continued to happen because I've had 3 major reconstructive surgeries on my right shoulder and 2 on my left. So I know the shoulder game.
And like you said, I mean, I so one thing I can at least identify with, and I know that that just it never ever feels the same. So I can't imagine if you had to really get in there. By the way, was that one pass you caught in college? Was that from Drew Brees?
My one, I wish that would be so great. No, it was from a guy named Rick Tresker. So that was 96. Drew got there in 97. And then we
Did you ever
ended up
say, "Hey, Drew, I can catch. Just give me one"?
every day, every single day. And I tried to get him to throw me the ball. He was more interested in throwing it to, real athletes and skilled players. But yes, every day I reminded him of that.
Now, is that, by the way, just as a side note, when you like, I've always wondered when you play with a guy, whether it's Drew Brees or any of these folks in college or pro, do you stay in touch with folks like that?
Yeah, you do with the folks that I think that everybody's different. And on a football team, you're talking 50 to 100 players,
Right.
depending on, professional ranks or college. And so you don't get a connection with everyone, but I think we share a lot of similarities, kind of how we approach things, attention to detail. He is one of the most dynamic individuals you'll meet. But if you're a sports fan, if you were to sit there and watch how he approaches things, if we're in practice and in the film room with him and you understood his communication style and everything that makes him what he is, you just have this great deal of respect for the Drew Brees, type players in the world. There's not a lot of them. And
Right.
and he's very unique in how he approaches the game, but he's also very unique in how he thinks about, life and his family and the things that are most important, right? And so, I think you always gravitate towards people like him. And we were just talking the other day, and he continues to do things and put other people first. And I love that. So yeah, you definitely keep those connections.
So, it's interesting. You talk about kind of, for lack of a better word, falling into Purdue, and you guys, you end up doing well there. And then when do you realize, hey, this football thing, not only did I pay for college, but I may be going pro? When does that become a reality, like a thought in your mind that this actually is not just paying for college, but I may be going pro?
I'm going to bring you into the first thing that comes to mind when you say that. So here I am in 2001. It must be April, back when the draft was in April, right? And I had never seen a draft in my life. I had no idea what to expect. And yes, I had people talking to me about this opportunity to play in the National Football League because agents are reaching out going into my senior year. And, there's an idea that maybe this could happen, which had never entered my mind. I'd still never seen an NFL game in my life. I played in college, so I'd seen the college game, but I've still yet to sit down and watch an NFL game. And people think I'm crazy when I say that, but I was consumed with engineering and trying to keep my grades up and play football at the college level, and that took a lot of time, and I had a lot of fun in between there too, of course. But so I'm not, let's be honest here, Matthew. The library isn't always a place that you study. Sometimes that's the name of a bar. Okay, mom and dad. So just keep that in mind. So. But I'll go back to this moment in April. It's the draft, and of course I'm on this train of you have an opportunity to play in the National Football League, but nothing's legit until it actually happens, right? Well, I get a call and I'm on the phone with these people from these different programs and these different teams, and they're telling me all this stuff, and all of a sudden my name goes across the screen, and here I am, 48th overall pick, New England Patriots. And I have no idea where the New England Patriots are located. And again, this is making me sound fairly ignorant, but I'd never been to the Northeast. I knew it as individual states. Here it is, New England. I've never seen a game by the New England Patriots. And I'm looking at my buddies going, where is that? Like,
But
where am I going?
You didn't even know that did you know you were in the draft, that you were being drafted?
I did, and I definitely knew that I was eligible, and my agent was telling me, "Hey, things are going to go great," and he was one of the best agents out there. But I was just oblivious to it. It didn't mean anything to me, right? Again, like I don't believe in the boogeyman and all this. I have to see it to believe it. I'm empirical data. I'm an engineer, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like
Numbers.
X always equals 8, right? So here I am at this moment, and by the way, we're at the Neon Cactus for any of you that have been to West Lafayette, Indiana, I'm on Purdue's campus. Breeze just got drafted, with the first pick in the second round. And here I am in the second round, having all these phone calls. And then I get drafted later in the second round. And I'm around all my friends. I got friends and family. We took over this entire country bar and we're having a great time. And my buddy comes up to me, and this is the longest winded way of getting to your question. My buddy comes up to me as I'm talking to Scott Pioli, who is the director of player personnel. And he taps me on the shoulder and goes, "Do you know how much money the guy made with the 48th overall pick last year?" And when he told me, I literally almost shut down. I'm like, what? And this realization of, my goodness, this is real. Like, this is, and then
Beers
it was a
for
little
everybody. Beers for everybody.
And then you're right. And then I'm kind of, then there's weight behind that, because when there's that much money on the line, it comes with great expectations, right? So it was a dual realization of, this is amazing, and I've got a lot of work to do. And I'm not sure that they may have made a big mistake.
Yeah, but let's be honest. The first year you're there, 2001, you guys win the Super Bowl over the Rams. So, it's not as a New England fan, I'll tell you, you guys lived up to the hype.
Oh man, and we lived up to the hype, but looking back on that season, as you well know, from this area, followed the team, and I hear it from so many, longtime New England fans, like, we were in the desert, like we had nothing to be, prideful of or whatever, other than we were there for our team. And now, 2 decades of just solid winning performances. Yeah, it was, and it was special to be a part of in every way.
So the thing that I think is so fascinating about this, if you listen to the last 19 minutes of this conversation, you literally are just kind of moving forward through this career, right? High school to college, college to the pros. You make it, you're having this phenomenal rookie season. And then you and your wife, Susie, are like, hey, by the way, let's start the Light Foundation. This foundation aimed towards kids developing skills and values. We'll do a lot of sports and outdoor activities, camping, kind of what you were talking about. You're grown up. For those who are interested, you can go to mattlight72.com. I mean, I'm telling you, if this is happening in my world, I don't know how I can stop and go, you know what else we should do is start a foundation right now, honey. Walk me through the mindset on that, because when you stop and think all of this is happening your rookie year, as you're having this amazing season, that's a lot to swallow. Why were you doing that then?
Well, I think it goes back to the fact that it was also new to me. And I'm not pinching myself. But I'm more just, to be honest with you, like I honestly felt like at any point they're going to realize that they made a mistake.
But then why sound a foundation? I mean, here's the thing. If you think it's going to stop, if you go, okay, at some point, someone's going to wake up and say, hey, Matt, this was a mistake, I wouldn't start a foundation and bring a bunch of kids in. You stopped and thought, hey, I'm going to help a bunch of other, less advantaged children right now and give them a better life. And my wife, Susie, and I are going to do this for a lot of people. That sounds like someone who says, I'm going to help other people with all that I've been blessed with.
Well, yeah, and that's I guess that's probably more of a natural way to think about it. But for me, it was quite the opposite. It was like, just signing that rookie contract, right? Like I remember going in and putting that pen to paper, and it was now like really official, right? And now my bank account went from negative, to really positive, and I'm like, I need to do something great with this. I already had more than I could have ever fathomed in that very beginning phase of earning as an adult. And I mean, like it was overwhelming. It was such a lifestyle change. It was so different from anything that I ever pictured happening. I mean, I thought I was going to be, doing R&D or working, with my dad in the thermoplastic injection molding realm. But here I am, and I've got all this money, and I'm a part of, this unbelievable program where I learned about discipline and showing up on time and being held accountable. And, doing it right every single day with the Belichick system and blah, 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 blah. And we went on top of that. And what am I going to do with that? And by the way, I also kept hearing my grandmother's words, and she told me this all the time. Hey, Matthew, to whom much is given, much is required. I thought she wrote it, came much before my grandmother, clearly. So but I kept hearing those words, and my grandma, my family's so tight knit and we're so close, but my grandmother was the one who would say, hey, listen, your parents may want to, throw you out of the house right now, but just remember, there's always one person that loves you every day. And so we were very close, and she would tell that to me, Matt, on little things like you've been given this opportunity, or yes, you've had some success in sports in high school and whatnot. Just remember, to whom much is given, much is required. And with that in mind, here I am with more money than I ever could have imagined. What am I going to do with it? Why is that going to be? What's going to make it meaningful to me? Looking at it at that point in time was doing something great with what I was given. So that was the mindset. And from there, it just blossomed into what we have today, 20 some odd years later.
So give everyone an idea. What is the Light Foundation beyond what I just said?
So in its heart, it's just spending time with young people. I don't like to put the title. Yes, we work with disadvantaged youth, right? Kids that don't have all the opportunities that everybody else does. But as we all know, you can take a kid from Wellesley, from Cambridge, from some of the nicer places on earth, and they're going to battle the same things that the kids that have nothing, who struggle with almost everything. There's going to be so many similarities. So what I like to say is, we work with kids, we walk alongside them. I bring in the people who were instrumental in my upbringing, like my parents and family and friends of mine, and people that I've met in my journey in life, who attack life with the coolest, mentality, and they do things at the highest level. And I introduce them to these kids, and then I just ask them to do things like, hey, just be accountable, show up on time, be real, look me in the eye, little things that will lead to success. Because everything that we focus on through the Light Foundation comes back to leadership. So we have the Light Foundation Leadership Academy. All of our programming falls under, those parameters, and helping shape young people and give them the little things or the big things that'll help them become leaders in their own families, in their own businesses, in their own careers, in their relationships. And that's what's important to me, because again, I was given so much. And let's find a way to promote that and to model that, right? Because I want to be the person that when they look around and they want to stop, maybe we're doing a community service project, maybe we're doing, whatever it is we're doing, and they want to stop, they look over and say, oh, well, he's not stopping, so I'm not going to stop, right? Because that's what I got modeled for me in my life, and that's what we do through the foundation.
So, over the next 11 years, you play for the Patriots, you make 5 Super Bowl appearances, you bring the New England Patriots 3 Super Bowl rings, you go to the Pro Bowl 3 times, you develop this reputation as a leader, you become a captain on the field, you become the NFL player rep, a member of the executive team. I mean, obviously the players recognize the strength that you bring as a leader in the locker room. But then in May of 2012, you announced your retirement. Why did you decide it was time to go?
Biggest reason, I'm looking at my daughter at that time, and she's closer to being out of my home than in my home. And I thought, boy, I grew up right the way I grew up, and I felt like I needed to be in my home more. And I'd also done pretty much everything. I spent it was 10 years longer than I ever thought I'd make it, right? So I'll survive the first year, and then they'll figure out that they made a horrible mistake. And I just kept fooling them. So, there were a lot of factors. I also, battled Crohn's disease throughout my entire career, was diagnosed my rookie year in 2001. Lost 18 inches of my intestine, had to come back from that. It's just, hey, well, uphill both ways, no shoes. I mean, I'm not crying here, but we all have things we go through. But for me, it was a combination of things. First and foremost, though, I wanted to be there for my kids more, and I was able to do that. So
Well, and I think it was really cool. I mean, obviously afterwards, the Patriots induct you into the Hall of Fame, which I think has got to be an unbelievable honor for someone who, as you point out, doesn't think you're going to make it a year. It's interesting. You and I continued to cross paths afterwards. You joined a company, Keel Vodka, afterwards. Tell me about Keel, because as you know, am obsessed with Keel. I think it's an amazing product. But tell me why you got attracted to Keel, and what you sort of a little bit about the product.
So yeah, so Keel was when we launched. Oh, it's almost been 9 years ago now, right? We were the first ever, and still are the only premium light spirit. We trademarked that, and the thought process behind Keel
It's a
was,
vodka, just so everyone knows.
yeah, it's a vodka, and which is kind of a misnomer because by definition, vodka needs to be 40% alcohol. We are not. So the idea was the light beer rules the roost, but at one time in the 70s, it was taste great, less filling, and people are like, I'm not drinking a light beer. I'm a real man, and now, people realize that it's a little bit healthier. It doesn't have as much stuff in it, right? There's a lot of reasons for it. Well, we thought, why isn't anybody doing that with vodka? Why does it have to taste like rocket fuel? So we distill our vodka at 24%, where you can still taste the flavor profile in it, but it's not off-putting. And it doesn't have anything in it. There's really nothing in vodka other than calories. And when you take the alcohol out, you also take out the calories, just like a light beer. So that was the mentality. I want to go out. I want to enjoy an evening. I want to have a drink in my hand throughout the entire night, but I don't want to become that guy, and I don't want to switch from drinking, a cocktail or two to then beer. So, that's what Keel represents. And I wanted to do it because I'm watching two friends of mine with this stupid idea. Like, we're going to launch a premium light spirit. Okay. And then I'm like, that's never going to happen. And right after I retired, here they come with a bottle. They found a distiller. They started putting the wheels in motion. And I thought, man, this is going to be cool to be a part of. And the other thing was, I love marketing and promotions. I like to share the news on things that I believe in. So I kind of gravitate towards that side of the equation in the business realm. And what better way to get involved with marketing and promotions than with a product like Keel? Because they say do what you love. Well, I don't mind walking into a bar and having a cocktail every now and then. So sign me up, Doc.
Right. Let me end with this. What's next for Matt Light? I mean, you've got the foundation, you've got Keel. You're still spending a ton of time in Foxborough. I mean, do you like to go to games? What do you like? What do you do now with your time?
I feel this push more and more to just continue to speak truth and empower people that maybe don't have as big of a voice. I think that's, kind of also the reason behind the foundation childhood where we started this conversation. I was always the person looking out for I don't like people to get picked on, and I don't like people to pick on other people. And, I want to fight for what's right. I want to do things on behalf of others. I want to serve other people. And so we can do that through the foundation, but I feel more of a pull to do that in every walk of my life and help people navigate things that maybe aren't as bold. So, the foundation will always play a major role in my life. I'm going to continue to work with other organizations and hopefully be helpful to them as well, because I enjoy giving back and I enjoy being a part of things that I believe in. And then ultimately, I do a lot in the outdoor realm. So I'm working on a couple of things that I think, from a lodging and a hunt club perspective, that'll be focuses of mine, because people are starting to realize how important the outdoors is, coming out of COVID and realizing that, being in the great outdoors is actually kind of neat. More people got outdoors, I think, than indoors during this time, as well as understanding where their food source comes from. And those are things that I'm passionate in as well. So, I'll focus on some of those areas and continue to do the work through the foundation.
Awesome. All right, Matt, we always end with a lightning round. Are you ready?
I think so.
All right. Don't worry, this isn't tough. When you travel, are you the kind of guy that arrives early or just in time?
I'm a just-in-time guy.
How low can you let your cell phone battery go?
All the way most of the time. I typically never plan ahead.
Wow. How many unread emails do you currently have?
At least 1,000.
If you had 48 hours to binge any show, what would it be?
Ooh, I'm big on the terminal list right now.
Oh, isn't dude, Jack Carr? He's come. Well, I don't want to
Woo!
why Jack Carr's coming up on the podcast.
I love it.
Listen. If you start that, you won't be able to finish it. Oh, amazing,
Uh-huh.
amazing.
That's right. I love it.
Oh, all right. How clean is your house,
Extremely clean because my wife is amazing.
Susie? She's awesome. All right. Least favorite chore.
Making the bed. I hate it.
Oh, all right. I can get by that. I just can't do laundry. If you could have a drink with anybody, a Keel, of course, who would it be?
Can I go back in time?
Yeah, of course.
I want to sit down with George Washington. The George Washington of 1775, 76.
Fair enough. Coolest celebrity you've ever met.
Oh my goodness. You know what? My wife would say this, and I could go on for days on other things too, but I am a huge James Taylor fan. Okay. So go ahead, poke
Listen,
fun at me,
no.
but
Listen, I used to, you know where it is. I don't even know what it's called now, but it used to be called Great Woods. It's right there, just in the Foxborough.
yeah, my backyard.
Yeah. I used to every summer. I used to love to go see James Taylor. So I'm not sure he would be the one that, but I get it. So I'm not gonna rag at you on that one.
So listen, so when we were sitting right in front of him, and at one point he took a little time and came down, and I forced my wife to go up and get something signed because I was too embarrassed to do it.
Yep.
But I forced her to go up and get something signed. So she never lets me live that down.
Well, if you're a New Englander, especially he's an institutionalist there. All right, biggest pet peeve.
People that cut other people off or cut in line.
Okay, something that you won't go cheap on.
Ooh, any hunting equipment.
Interesting. All right. Last one on this. I did my reality TV show stint. I was on Dancing with the Stars. If you had to go on a reality TV show, what would it be?
Alone.
Okay. All right. This is the last part, I promise. We're going to play a little game of pronunciation. Data or data?
Data.
Gala or gala?
Oh, that's such a hard one. I think gala.
There's no wrong answer.
I know, but it hurts.
Iran or Iran?
Iran.
Caramel or caramel?
Caramel. That's a good one.
This is the last one. Aunt or aunt?
Aunt. Aunt is a big Midwest thing I've learned, and aunt is here in the Northeast.
That's exactly right. There you go. You got it. That's all that we have for you. Matt Light, thank you. You've been very generous with your time. Number 72. Always appreciate it. Thank you very much. And again, great work with the Light Foundation, mattlight72.com. If you're interested in supporting all the great work that Matt does with kids, it's so amazing, and really appreciate you taking the time that you have today.
Hey, I love it, Sean. Thanks a lot for having me.
Well, I hope you like that discussion. He's such a fascinating person. I really loved talking to him and having this discussion. It just shows that if you to some degree, if you go out and you live your life and you have fun and you do the right things, good things will happen. And Matt really exemplifies that. He's continued to do that. I love, as I said earlier, the work that he does with the Light Foundation and the spirit that he has and the determination he has to keep going through life. Just a fine human being, and obviously continues to do well in business and everything else. I hope you enjoyed that conversation, especially as we head into football. And there's so many things between in the sports world that we pick apart these days, but he's one of the good guys. He's really a good individual, and has surrounded himself with good people and done good things and helped people and continues to do that. And I'm glad to introduce you to him and get you to know him because I've been honored to get to know him. So, as I said at the beginning, it is we've got into football season, and I know he's no longer playing in the league right now, but it's good to know somebody who was there, who's done very well, who's excelled, that came out of the league the same kind of person that he went into it, and is still making a huge contribution to the country and to the world. And Matt Light does that. Look forward to talking to you again on Monday. So much is going on. As I mentioned earlier, and if you're watching Spicer and Company every night, you know that we've kind of phased now out of primary season. We're into general election season. This is it, the final stretch. We're going to have so many of the great candidates on both the podcast and on the show. Please subscribe, share, review. So helpful. And I'll see you back here Monday. Take care. Have a great weekend.